So today I'm going to be taking you on a tour of what I've got going on in the greenhouse. And here in the ground there's a lone chard that made it through the winter, and that was planted by the previous owners of the house. And there's also some flowers growing up, which I'm not sure what they are since they haven't bloomed yet. And then on the left side, this is Arugula that I planted in the fall, and it made it through the winter, though it's been so hot in the greenhouse lately that it's actually been bolting. So I've chopped off a lot of the tops since they were bolting. And then there's also one beet that survived the winter that seems to be kicking it into gear. So that is probably going to be ready to pick here pretty soon. And then I've got lots of starts. So we'll start here. This is my cabbage. I've got two different varieties. There's a Copenhagen and an early Jersey, and those are going to be going into the garden probably tomorrow or maybe tonight. And then I've also got some Brussels sprouts there in the back, and those are probably ready to go in the garden as well. And I've got 3 different varieties of kale in this tray, and I've got a few more back in the house. But I've got the Premier, Wild Garden, and Curled, and they're about ready to go in the garden as well. And onions, I decided to do quite a few different varieties. So I've got the Tropina Lunga and the Elsa Craig. Those are the first 2 I planted on January 20th, and they're definitely ready to go out into the garden, and I'll probably do those tomorrow. And then I also got some red Cipollini, and that I got from a seed exchange, and Stuttergarter, which also came from a seed exchange. And then I have a bunching onion over here that I got some seeds from a sale. And they're actually last year's seeds, so I'm surprised they came up, but they did. And then I've got 2 different varieties of chard. I've got an orange and I've got a rainbow chard. And the rainbow chard I planted a little bit, about a week earlier than the orange, and they're both growing pretty well. The rainbow chard seems to be a little bit leggy. I don't know if you could see that, but when I transplant it outside, I'll bury that much into the ground, and then so all that will be underground. And then this next tray, this one is the one that my chickens happened to get a hold of. So I left this tray outside and forgot to put it back in the greenhouse when I let my chickens out, and they ate up quite a bit of it. So the mustard is actually, 2 of them are doing pretty well, and looks like they might actually make it. But the Southern Giant, that one was pretty much, that's these last 2 rows here, they're pretty much a total loss, so I've already replanted those. And then this is another variety of kale I had started a little bit later than the other ones, and that one got pretty well ate up too, so I've started some more of that. And then pak choi and spinach. The spinach is pretty well eaten up. I don't know if it's going to make it. And then the pak choi I think is probably going to be okay. And then I've got some rhubarb. So this I started from seed, which isn't something people usually do, but I planted them on January 28th, and they're looking pretty good. I've already transplanted them into these single pots, but I started them out in 6 packs. And I've got 6 more over here. And for these 6 on the right, I put some GrowCo compost that I got from the Flower and Garden Show in with the potting soil, and it actually seems to be making a little bit of a difference. I noticed that the rhubarb on the right seems to be a little bit more strong than the one on the left, so it seems to work pretty well. And then in the middle here I've got a couple of kale starts in the back that I just planted in single pots when I was thinning out my kale, and they took off. And then in the front is the chamomile, and this one I actually planted quite a few seeds, but not very many of them germinated, so I just recently transplanted them, the ones that did germinate, into these singles. And then my newest addition down here on the lower level, these are ones that I just transplanted today from 6 packs into these singles. So here I've got 3 romaine lettuces, and then I've got some endive, which is the first time I've tried growing endive, so we'll see how that goes. But I really like the coloring of the leaves. They're like a purple and green variegated color. And then I also did some transplanting of a couple more lettuces. So this is the Parris Island. I had a really bad germination rate on the Parris Island, so I only ended up getting 3 out of probably, I think, 12 that I planted. But I got a really good germination rate on the butter crunch lettuce. So I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of those. So they can't take a hard frost, so I'm not going to transplant them out into the yard yet. So I wanted to, they were getting too root bound for the small cells that they were in before. So I planted those into those singles. So I think they'll be much happier, and hopefully I'll be able to transplant directly from these containers out into the yard in a few weeks. So that is the greenhouse. I still have more starts back in the house under the lights, and I'm going to be starting my tomatoes and my peppers. I've already started, so they're germinating now. And once they're ready, I'll put them in the greenhouse too. I also wanted to mention the fertilizer that I'm using. So this is the first time I've tried this stuff, but this is the Neptune's Harvest. It's an organic liquid fertilizer. So I just mix about 2 teaspoons of that in with a gallon of water, and then I bottom water my starts. So I don't water from the top, but I put the water in the bottom of the tray, and then the plants soak it up from the roots. And that seems to be working pretty well. So I hope you enjoyed my update, and I'll be posting another one when I have some more stuff growing.